Welcome to Soul Spirit Stories. If you're new here, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss a story that touches your heart and inspires your soul. This story today will remind you of the power of love, sacrifice, and how miracles can come from the most unexpected places. So sit back, listen closely, and let your heart feel every word of this emotional journey. It all began on a cold winter morning. The streets of the city were still waking up. A soft drizzle tapped against the windows of a small apartment where a man named Daniel sat quietly by his daughter's bedside. His little girl, Emma, barely 7 years old, was asleep, her tiny chest rising and falling gently as she clutched a small teddy bear. Daniel looked at her pale face, the oxygen tube resting beneath her nose, and felt a deep ache in his chest. He gently brushed her hair away and whispered, "Hang in there, sweetheart. Daddy's going to make it all right." Emma had a rare heart condition. The doctor said she needed surgery within a few weeks, or it would be too late. The surgery was expensive, far beyond what Daniel, a street musician, could afford. He had already sold almost everything he owned, his watch, his late wife's wedding ring, even their old car. But he was still thousands of dollars short. Every morning, Daniel would pack his violin, the one thing he refused to sell, and head to the busy downtown plaza. He'd play for hours, sometimes in the freezing cold, sometimes under the scorching sun, just to collect a few crumpled bills and coins tossed into his open violin case. But the crowd rarely noticed him. People were always in a hurry, lost in their own world. Still, Daniel played with all his heart. Each note carried his love for Emma, his fear, his hope, his desperation. And even though his hands trembled from exhaustion, he never stopped. One day, as Daniel was playing his usual spot near the coffee shop, a man in a tailored suit paused for a moment. He listened, tapping his fingers against his briefcase. When Daniel finished, the man dropped a few dollars in the case and said, "You've got talent, old man. Ever thought of playing somewhere better than the street?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Music isn't about where you play, sir. It's about who you play for." The man raised an eyebrow but didn't say more. He just nodded and walked away. That night, Daniel returned home with only a few coins, not enough even for dinner. He found Emma sitting up, coloring with trembling hands. "Daddy, when will I get better?" she asked softly. Daniel knelt beside her. "Very soon, my love. Daddy's just working on a little miracle." She smiled weakly. "Then I'll wait for your miracle." Tears burned his eyes, but he forced a smile and kissed her forehead. "You're my miracle already." The next morning, Daniel decided to go somewhere different. Instead of his usual plaza, he went to the steps of a grand concert hall. People dressed in elegant clothes walked in and out, clearly not the kind who'd stop for a street performer, but Daniel didn't care. He closed his eyes and began to play. This time, the music flowed differently, deeper, richer, full of raw emotion. The melody spoke of a father's love, of sleepless nights, of pain and hope. It was the kind of music that reached the soul. Passers-by began to slow down. A small crowd gathered. Phones came out, recording the man who played with tears streaming down his cheeks. Inside the concert hall, the same man from the other day, Mr. Harrison, the CEO of a major music label, was preparing for a charity gala. But when he heard the faint sound of a violin outside, something made him pause. He stepped out, following the melody. And there on the steps was Daniel, lost in his own world, his bow dancing gracefully across the strings. When the song ended, the small crowd clapped softly. Some dropped money into his case. More than usual, Mr. Harrison walked up and said, "That was beautiful." "What's your name?" "Daniel," he replied. "And where did you learn to play like that?" Daniel smiled faintly. "From life, I suppose," Harrison chuckled. "You ever performed professionally?" Daniel shook his head. "No, sir. I only play for my daughter. She's in the hospital. Needs surgery soon." Something in his tone made Harrison's smile fade. "I see. How much does she need?" Daniel hesitated. "More than I can ever earn." Without saying another word, Harrison took out his business card. "Come by my office tomorrow morning. I think I might have an opportunity for you." Daniel looked down at the card, disbelief in his eyes. Thank you, sir. That night Daniel barely slept. He sat by Emma's bedside, holding her little hand and whispering, "Maybe our miracle's coming, sweetheart." The next morning, Daniel put on his only decent shirt and went to the address on the card. The office was luxurious, with glass walls and shining floors. Harrison greeted him warmly and introduced him to a few people from his music label. "We're hosting a charity event this weekend," Harrison explained. "It's for children's hospitals. I want you to perform there." Daniel's eyes widened. "Me at a charity gala?" "Yes," Harrison said with a nod. "You'll get paid for your time, of course. And who knows, maybe someone important will notice you." Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes. "Thank you, sir. You have no idea what this means to me." The following days flew by. Daniel practiced relentlessly, every note carrying his love for Emma. He'd visit her during the day, then return home at night to practice under the dim light of a flickering bulb. When the night of the gala arrived, Daniel stepped onto the stage in front of hundreds of elegantly dressed guests. His heart raced. He wasn't used to the bright lights or the fancy crowd. But when he thought of Emma, lying in her hospital bed, he found his courage. He closed his eyes and began to play. The first notes floated softly through the air. The hall fell silent. His music painted pictures of a little girl with dreams too big for her frail body, of a father who refused to give up, of love so pure it defied poverty and pain. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. The applause was thunderous. Backstage, Harrison handed him an envelope. "That's your payment," he said. "And Daniel, someone here wants to meet you." A woman in her 40s approached, her eyes glistening. "That was the most moving performance I've ever heard," she said. "I'm Dr. Collins. I work at St. Mary's Hospital. The foundation I represent funds pediatric surgeries." Daniel's heart stopped. She continued, "We'd be honored to sponsor your daughter's procedure. Consider it fully covered." Daniel froze. "Are you serious?" She smiled warmly. "Yes, your music touched every soul in this room. It's the least we can do." He dropped to his knees, overwhelmed with emotion. Tears streamed down his face. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You've just saved my little girl." The next day, Emma's surgery was scheduled. Daniel stayed outside the operating room, clutching his violin, praying silently. Hours passed like years. Finally, the surgeon came out, smiling. "She's going to be just fine." Daniel broke down, sobbing with relief. Weeks later, Emma was sitting up in bed, color returning to her cheeks. Daniel played for her, this time not out of desperation but pure joy. "Daddy," she said softly, "your miracle worked." He smiled, tears glistening. "No, sweetheart, you were the miracle all along." A few months later, a video of Daniel's performance from the charity event went viral online. People from all over the world were moved by his story. Donations poured in. Soon, Daniel was invited to perform at major events, even on television. But fame never changed him. Every performance began the same way, with a glance at the front row, where Emma always sat, clapping the loudest. Years later, when Emma grew up, she followed in her father's footsteps, learning to play the violin. Together, they played duets that melted hearts everywhere. And every time Daniel looked at her, he remembered the days of struggle, the nights of prayer, and the miracle that came when he least expected it. Because sometimes the smallest acts of love, a melody, a father's sacrifice, can change the world in ways we can't imagine. So if you ever see someone playing music on the street, stop for a moment. Listen. You never know what story hides behind those trembling hands and soulful notes. Because behind every song, there's a heart that's hoping to be heard. Thank you for watching Soul Spirit Stories. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life tales of love, kindness, and miracles. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and keep your soul alive with stories that inspire.